and the Opulence Media Group proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast, featuring your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths come to die. Stay tuned. Be right there.
Oh, hello there. Welcome to the show. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast, and I am your host, Rob Clark. This is episode number 159, and today I will be talking about my trip to Dallas and to the Kappa conference. Now, some of you think you might have heard this already, or you might have read about it already. But today, on this show, you will finally get the unbridled, unfiltered, raw truth from your boy. I've had some time to let everything settle, to think about things real hard, and I'm ready to talk about it. I saw my buddy, who I met actually in Dallas, one of the highlights of my trip, Mr. S.T. Patrick of the Midnight Rider News Show, of which I guest host every quarter, in Dallas. That was cool. And had a good time hanging with him. But today I saw it, let me back to what I was talking about. ST just put a show out about his experiences in Dallas, so head over to Midnight Rider News Show and check that out for sure. I did an interview live from Dallas on the 22nd of November from a buddy Jaffe Ryder's show with Chuck Ocelli. We both did it. I got to address a couple things, but in a forum like that where you have four people trying to get on the mic, and God bless Jaffe, but it takes him like 3 minutes to get a question out, and then me and Chuck are taking turns answering questions. You don't really get to say what you want to say. I was also on my buddy Mike's podcast, the Wall Street Window podcast, and I talked more about my trip to Dallas than really getting into the nitty-gritty of the conferences. And that's what I want to talk about here today. Mainly my experiences at the conferences, or at the conference. I did talk about, and I wrote a great article that my buddy Bart was kind enough to publish over on Daily Plaza UK about my trip to Dallas. And I addressed some of this a little bit in print. And today you're going to get the unfiltered truth straight from the horse's mouth. And I'm finally going to get to say what I want to say. I didn't want to go full bore on someone else's show or someone else's website and have the ire of many and plenty down upon them for something I said. So here is my comfortable place. Here is where I feel okay to let it all hang out. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today, folks. Because, I've just about had it with this whole quote-unquote community, if that's what you want to call it. I should have learned my lesson 5 years ago at the first conference that I ever went to. And I did talk about it a little back then, but I was more not necessarily starstruck and in awe, but I was just trying to take everything in back then and experience what a conference is supposed to be like. I wasn't impressed then, and I really wasn't impressed this time, to be quite honest with you. The whole idea of having a conference, at least what it used to be, is to share new research and shine new light on topics, people, facts, and what it's morphed into is, quite frankly, just disgusting. And I'm not saying that lightly, folks. I see now why Lancer and Deb Conway got out of this thing. And I see now why it's so easy for Judith Baker and Trine Day to take things over. Because that's what they do best. It's ugly. So here's what I mean. What they've turned into is, or what they've morphed into, is just basically a money grab. And a way for a small clique of people that have a lot of money to do what they want. And what I mean by that is, how can I put it nicely? The People Copa is headed by chairman of the board, Cyril Wecht, who is world famous medical examiner, probably not hurting for money. And most of the other board members are lawyers, probably not hurting for money. People like Schnapp, Simfish, doctors, Gary Aguilar, John Newman, folks like this. Okay, so these folks have ingrained themselves in the Dallas milieu of quote-unquote important researchers. And that's fine. Maybe they were at one time, but this is 2019. This is 56 years after the assassination. And I don't recall learning one new thing at this conference. And that's pretty sad to say, that I spent all this money and traveled all those miles to go to Dallas, where the conferences are, and learn absolutely nothing that I didn't already know. Anyone with a computer these days and the ability to Google can pretty much find and seek out just about anybody's work that they've put out there. Now, folks like John Newman, who aren't very social media savvy, shall I say, occasionally post little things on Facebook, but they don't necessarily have a big following. So until they actually publish their work in the form of a book that you must spend your money on to buy, you don't necessarily hear about what they're doing. Now, I know John Newman is, highly respected in this research community. He's written some very good books on the Kennedy assassination and Cold War era spycraft, the CIA, the war in Vietnam. But his presentation at the Kappa conference this year was the revelation that we can use his story as a timeline to prove that the whole Bishop with Phillips CIA story was bogus, and that he was more than likely working for military intelligence and not the CIA. Okay, that's great. But I don't know any serious researcher that hasn't, shall we say, believed Vesiana. Some people were fooled. Some very respected and important people were fooled. Because, yeah, if it's true, if David Atlee Phillips was Bishop and supposedly met with Lee Harvey Oswald and Antonio Vesiana, then that's huge. That pretty much breaks the case wide open, proves the CIA was involved, proves David Atlee Phillips was involved. It proves a relationship between the CIA and Lee Harvey Oswald and these anti-Castro Cubans. And it proves a lot, if true. Now, once again, when it comes to Antonio Vesiana's story, that's all it is. It's a story with no actual factual documentation whatsoever to back it up. And you know how I feel about stories, folks. I'm not a fan. Never have been. When you have a story, you would hope that you would be able to corroborate it in some form or fashion with other eyewitness testimony, ear witness testimony, some form of documentation. Antonio Vesiana had zero. And Antonio Vesiana was a piece of shit human being. Seriously. He was a murderer. He deserved to be where he was, and that was in prison in the 70s. Yet, some folks in our community want to trot him out like the anti-hero, like he's done spilled the beans, and we all know the truth now. And this was 5 years ago. A short 5 years ago. And he was treated like a guest of honor and distinction at one of these conferences. And it made me sick to my stomach to see this. And personally, I've never believed the Antonio Vesiana story. Gaten Fonzie may have been duped and used by Antonio Vesiana to get out of prison. And okay, if Vesiana was taking his orders from the military intelligence, okay, what exactly does that have to do with the Kennedy assassination? Is the point I'm getting at. Okay, great, John Newman. You've proved through some kind of circumstantial way that Vesiana was more likely military intelligence, working with military intelligence than the CIA. Okay, that's great. What does it prove? Are you saying Vesiana had something to do with the Kennedy assassination and was made to do it by military intelligence? Because I didn't get that vibe. So what exactly is the relevance here? Is it important to bust a myth officially? Sure. Is it conference worthy? Nope. Is it book worthy? Not really. So what are we doing here? Are we taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back? Are we taking 4 steps sideways? I don't understand. I don't get it. And as much as I love James Wagenford as a person, I met him 5 years ago at the conference, and he had an amazing story about meeting Orville Nix at the Time Life headquarters, and them offering him a couple $1,000 for his nuisance movie to go away, and he got mad and went and sold it somewhere else. And he had a copy of the Zapruder film that had gotten stolen from his apartment, and yada yada yada. And 5 years later, he's at this conference speaking. Now, I understand he's writing a book about his life, and that's great, but I just don't understand where that gets us. Where does it get us closer to the truth at? I don't know. There was a lot of things like this at the conference. And don't even get me started on Oliver Stone and Cyril Wecht. Because these two partners in crime are so in bed with the other conference, it's not funny. Cyril Wecht is the chairman of the board of CAPA, the Citizens Against Political Assassinations. Yet he's seen cavorting on the grassy knoll with the likes of Beverly Oliver, Judith Vary Baker, and given his impassioned speech on the grassy knoll, and he gave the same presentation, if you will, at both conferences. He went to Judy Baker's conference. Oliver Stone, I think, was at Judy's conference more than he was at Kappa, yet he was Kappa's guest speaker at their banquet that they wanted to charge an extra $40 for. Oliver Stone spoke for 25 minutes. And here's the gist of what he said. Rah, 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 keep up the good fight. You guys are doing important work out there. But if it wasn't for me, you guys wouldn't be doing important work out there, because I'm responsible for getting all these JFK files released and yada, yada, yada. And I made this great movie, and I sacrificed my career to do it, and I've paid the ultimate price to do so. I've been blacklisted by Hollywood. My career has never been the same because I chose to make this movie, and yada, yada, yada. And probably so. But also your choice of movies that you've chose to make since JFK, I can name one off the top of my head, and that's Natural Born Killers. And all the rest, I have no idea. So what's that tell you? What's that tell you, folks? Before JFK, I can name you a whole lot. The Doors, Born on the 4th of July, Platoon. He wrote Scarface. I mean, what happened? Was it just because he was blacklisted and he couldn't choose to do any more interesting or edgy movies after JFK? We have been supplanted by the powers that be for this JFK Records Act. And we've been put off by Barack Obama. We've been put off by Donald Trump to release all the files. The CIA, the FBI, everybody else had 25 years to get their shit together and get these things out there. There's absolutely no reason. And I don't care if somebody's still alive. If they're still alive, they're in their 70s, 80s, or 90s. It really doesn't matter at this point. Who is going to do anything about it? Nobody. Do we really need to protect the CIA's modus operandi of 50 years ago. I'm sure they do things just a little different now. So don't feed me this crap that they need to, protect their MO and the way they do things, their spycraft, and people that are still alive. I mean, hey, people did what they did back then. This was a long time ago. And unless they had direct involvement in the Kennedy assassination, there is absolutely no reason to go after any of these people. As I said, most of them are older than dirt by now. If they're still alive, most of them are dead. Yet we still don't have all the files. Why? Because Trump agreed to give the CIA more time. Just let them loose, folks. Let them loose. And why did we let them get away with it? Why aren't we standing up and saying something about it and doing something about it? Instead of, trying to get together and do this mock trial of Lee Harvey Oswald and, trying to bring a hearing, I just don't get it. Is basically what I'm saying. What's the point? It's been 56 years. Lee Harvey Oswald's dead. Yet we care so much about clearing his name and having him found not guilty or innocent. I mean, hell, his ex-wife doesn't care that much. His own children don't care. His extended family doesn't care. They didn't care 10 years ago. They didn't care 20 years ago. They didn't care 30 years ago. It's been other people who suspect that our own government was involved in the Kennedy assassination that has cared to do anything over the years. I did a podcast a few years ago pleading for June or Rachel or Marina to come forward and be the spokesperson. Put the pressure on. Put the pressure on Trump. Put the pressure on the media to cover this and take interest in it. It's not my father that is accused of shooting a cop and the president of the United States. It's your father. It's your ex-husband, not mine. It's your grandfather. It's your cousin. It's your brother. It's your uncle. Not mine. Yet I care more than you do about clearing this man's name and finding out the truth. And we will. We're slowly getting there, folks. But we will get there. Some folks have gone their whole lives hoping to figure this thing out. And many never do. Almost all never do. I'll say right now, we don't have a definite answer about what the hell happened on November 22nd, 1963. Some folks think they figured it out, but they haven't figured it out yet. We do not have a universally accepted answer as to who was behind and who executed the murder of JFK 56 years ago. We don't have a definite accepted answer to that question. Now, to swing it back to the conferences a little bit, I found it to be a gathering of mostly older folks. Me and my listener friend Greg. Greg, what's up, buddy? If you're listening, I had a killer time in Dallas with you. I ate with Greg at Lee Harvey's. I got the Firebird sandwich, and it was damn good. And he had some local brews, and we had a great time hanging out. We had a great time talking shop, and we had a great time just hanging together and being able to relate to each other. Because if you've never been to a JFK conference, it's very solemn and weird. Well, now, with the exception of a few folks whose personality is able to overcome their self-worth or self-importance. You know, I'm there at the conference with folks like Aguilar, Newman, DiEugenio. You know, I can sit here and rattle off all these big names. You know, and have they done good work in the case? Yes, they have. They have. But they're very unapproachable. They're very standoffish. In fact, you know, I was supposed to do an interview with John Newman for me and Doug's show, Quick Hits. We had it all set up. He had agreed to do it. Doug even took the time to write the questions down in advance and send them to him. Okay, I called him Friday evening and said, "Hey, this is Rob Clark. I believe we had something set up to talk to you from a mutual friend, and you know, when would be a good time to get together and do this?" "Well, just call me tomorrow. Call me tomorrow morning." Okay. I called the next day. I left him a message. He didn't answer. I left him a message. He wasn't doing his presentation until 2:30, I believe. And he never called me back. He never made an effort to come talk to me. He never made an effort to call me back. I mean, and I even gave him weeks after the thing. It's not like I had to interview him right there at the conference. I mean, shit, I'd have been perfectly happy waiting until he got home and said, "Hey, okay, yeah, it was crazy at the conference, man. Didn't really have a lot of time, but let's do it now." Okay, great, let's do it now. So that pissed me off because that didn't happen. And I really wasn't too fond of the fact that he wanted questions in advance. Like, just let me talk to you, dude. Can we have a conversation, a real conversation? Does it have to be scripted? Are you that anal where you need to know every question so you can have your answers all lined up and ready to go? Who does that? I mean, I know he's a college professor, but can we just sit down and have a conversation? You know, I'm not going to ask you anything crazy, too crazy or off the wall. Can we just sit down and have a conversation? Like two normal people, you know? But I guess that's just too hard for him to do. Apparently it is. You know, another thing is, you know, it was cool to actually meet some of the people in real life that I've only been friends with on Facebook before. You know, while I was in Dallas, got to meet Chris Gallup, Matt Dowdett, you know, and a couple other young folks. But like I said, we were in the vast minority. You know, everybody at this thing was 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, meeting Tank Thompson was great. That dude has a fantastic attitude. He was very generous with his time. He was very enthusiastic about the topic. He would talk about anything for as long as you would sit there and talk to him. Great dude, you know. And I'm not just laying it out there, but it's not like you could walk up to Eugenio or to Jim DiEugenio and be like, hey man, big fan, you know, just wanted to talk to you for a minute. What, get your thoughts on, It looked like he was, you know how people have an aura, okay? Where they put out a vibe like, just stay away from me and don't talk to me vibe. That's what I felt like everybody at this conference, with the exception of a few, were putting off. Like, this is just, going through the motions type thing. And, what people don't understand about these conferences, people were upset because, I call it JudyCon, or Judith Baker's conference, or the Trine Day conference, or whatever you want to call the other one. Vince Palomara, for instance, author of Survivor's Guilt, The Not So Secret Service, and many other fine Trine Day publications, wanted to argue on the Ed Forum with Bart and a few other folks, because I guess he took it personally because he was invited to speak at the JudyCon, and did so wholeheartedly. He took a little bit of offense to people, calling it that and this, that, and the other. He's saying it's not her conference, but he was asked to speak at that. He wasn't asked to speak at Kappa, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But when you say yes to speak at Judith Very Baker's conference, and it is Judith Very Baker's conference, just to clarify things, okay? JFK Conference at LLC is who put on the conference, and that is solely owned by Judith Baker. And we have the actual documentation to prove it. So all of y'all out there saying it's not Judy Baker's conference, it is Judy Baker's conference. Okay? That's a fact. And if somebody else is behind her, that's great. Trine Day's behind her, great. But it's Judith Very Baker's conference. It's Judith Very Baker going on GoFundMe begging for $8,000 because her website was hacked. It's many people I met on the knoll saying that they were going to her conference because there were free tickets being given out. You want to sell them for $100 and some before the conference, but if you don't sell them all, you're just going to give people free tickets who want to come? I'd be pissed if I had spent $100 on conference tickets and they got to turn around and hand them out to people just to fill in the seats. Get the hell out of here. I'd be pissed if I had actually paid money to go there. But here's the thing. If you choose to speak at Judy Baker's conference, you're giving her and her conference credence and legitimacy where there should be none. You have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to speak at your conference because you, lady, are full of shit. Your lies have divided and fractured and muddied the waters of this JFK research community for years, and it's time to put an end to it. I'm tired of this fraud being the so-called face of the JFK research community. It's a joke. A joke. And people have proven that she is a fraud. That's a fact. She has absolutely zero evidence to back up anything she says about herself, about Lee Oswald, and about David Ferry, of which she's managed to write 3 or 4 books about. I mean, it's just stories, folks. It's just stories. I'm reading this thing on Facebook today. Let me find it, and I will relay it to you. Because it's just that ridiculous. Here we go. Judith Baker. We'll be posting the next few days about Lee's last phone call. Forgive me for not speaking about Lee's last phone call at the conference as planned. You deserve to hear about it, but I could not bring myself to do it. It was just ripping me up inside. It's all I can do to write about it. Our hour-and-a-half long call included asking Lee more about what happened in Mexico City, as we'd only talked about Mexico City briefly before, as our concerns were so much on our present troubles. But Mexico was on our minds. If he could somehow escape, we would meet in Mexico. That's when Mexico City came up again. It came up because I asked Lee to give me a list of his favorite songs. I intended to bring records with me when we met again, if we could meet again, in Mexico. We knew it wouldn't be easy to get some of the records we loved the most. Lee had managed to successfully smuggle Elvis records into the USSR. I learned this from a family in Israel that still has the records, not from Lee, just by the way. Well, in Mexico, maybe we could get Elvis and other rock and roll hits we loved, but surely not Gogi Grant's The Wayward Wind or Pat Boone's Exodus song, for example. Oh, the big surprise was that Lee had a new favorite to add to the list. It had come out in 1962 and was a big hit in the U.S., and it was still playing as a hit in Mexico City because, they're like a year behind us in coolness. When Lee was there in late September, Herb Alpert's The Lonely Bull. Lee told me that the song impelled him to visit a bullfight ring. That's important. This is why I believe bullfighter and robber Robert Clayton Buick, who says he met Lee, and why I laugh at the CIA's Bob Baer of tracking Oswald, who was, quote, trying to figure it out if Lee could have met Russian spies at the Bullring Stadium. They concluded out of the clear blue sky that it was possible, ignoring me and ignoring Mr. Buick, who was an American bullfighter in Mexico City at the time, who claims he talked to Lee. It's very possible that Lee did talk to Buick, for he told me he had visited a bull ring there, and that Herb Alpert's The Lonely Bull had resonated deep inside him as he watched the bullfight with deep pity for the bull. Here, then, is one of Lee's favorite pieces of music, which also confirmed to me that he had gone to a bull ring while in Mexico City. This is the type of bullshit, folks, that you can expect from Judy Baker. When you go hear her speak, there's not one shred iota of factual information coming out of her mouth. It is story time, folks. It's get your blankets out, get your pillows, snuggle up beside the fireplace, and have a listen to Aunt Judy read you a story. Because this is the type of shit that you hear. This is the type of shit that people fall head over feet for this woman and believe every word that she says. It's a fucking joke. A joke. And this is who is running, along with another fraud, Beverly Oliver. The whole JFK Conference LLC is Judith Very Baker's and hers alone, folks. It's registered to her. And that is factual and documentable and provable, unlike her stories. So, there you go with that. Also, I'm not the only one who feels a certain way about how conferences have evolved over the years. This comes from a post, and I'll withhold the name. It says, for several years now, I've had a bad feeling about the yearly JFK conferences. I get it that we loved him, want justice for him. I get it that researchers have literally devoted their lives to the mission of uncovering the lies and deceit of the government players surrounding his death. I get that research like that is expensive. I appreciate that books are written about this by people who believe they are onto something and are willing to tell it. My problem is none of the above. For me, the problem centers around literally thousands upon thousands of Americans who were either there or at home watching, listening to the radio, reading the papers, watching the debates on TV, watching the funeral, steeped in grief. People who are 55 years older now, most of them long since retired, on a fixed income, ill, disabled, with barely enough money to make ends meet. There was a time not long ago when they could watch YouTube lectures, speeches, symposium conferences, in other words, get the latest information and research in what has been found in the JFK case. Now, you can still YouTube, but the information is 7, 5, 2 years old. I've always thought that the reason for research into JFK was to uncover the truth and get it to the people by whatever means necessary. To start a groundswell of information and get it to the people who care and deserve answers. It seems to me now that JFK research, books, conferences have become a cottage industry. If you have the money, the plane tickets, and the time, you get the answers. If you don't, you get nothing. It seems to me that whatever is discovered should be public knowledge, available to us all. I remember when folks like Mark Lane were young and fought tirelessly to get the information to the people. Penn Jones, Jim Garrison, so many who at the risk of their own lives and reputations brought their research to the people at no charge. I noticed that some attitudes of researchers are most arrogant now. It goes something like this: I break my ass researching, you owe me. It cost me my family, my job, my friends, you owe me. This isn't easy, you owe me. If you want to know what I know, pay me. My response to that is simply, no one asked you to engage in this. No one asked you to spend a nickel. We thought you did this because you wanted answers and wanted everyone to know. We thought your goal was justice. If you needed money, you could have asked for donations. That money would have been sent to you from around the world. So the conferences and research continue for some, but the many remain in the dark. For one simple reason: no money. I'm guessing that the vast majority of 60, 70, and 80-year-olds who cannot afford the conferences, travel, rooms, banquets, books, much less keep up with the scheduling, will have to simply go down wondering what really happens, or what really happened, or at the least watch TV documentaries that lie about the assassination. I understand about funding, however, it just looks like a meeting of JFK groupies, a JFK clique of people who have made money off of this over the years, and those who are seeking to make money. Excuse me. It seems like a session of backslapping each other for information found, not the original intent of the real, beginning researchers who were truly at risk. I'm guessing there will be as many excuses for not making this information public to everyone, regardless of money or health issues, as there are researchers who have them, but the results are the same, which is knowledge for a few. The new information researchers find should be made public to everyone, regardless of station in life, but it isn't. If you want to know, it will cost you, or it will remain a secret, sort of like the way the CIA operates. So there's a person who's not a fan of conferences. And in this day and age, in the year of almost 2020 of our Lord, technology has advanced so very much. So very much, folks, that we shouldn't need to travel. You know, it would literally, and I agree with this poor woman, and to give credit where credit's due, even though the information is largely horseshit, Judith Baker did stream her conference live on YouTube. And I agree that COPA or Kappa or Lance or whoever does the other one should do the same. Stream it for free. Because look, you're not going to hurt your attendance. most of the folks are from Dallas or from close in Texas, or they can afford to travel because they enjoy the experience of pilgrimaging to Dallas every year and seeing people they've been seeing there for years and going to the conference thinking they're learning something, thinking they're part of something, while these self-righteous presenters who are in the right JFK clique, if you will, get to present their stuff for everyone else to consume. I let you in on a little secret, folks. And I've tried to say this and get my point across on the last couple shows I've been on, but I couldn't quite do it correctly. But I'm going to do it correctly tonight. So, just out of curiosity, how many folks, since 1990 or 91, whenever the first JFK Ask Conference was put on, how many folks do you think have attended conferences in Dallas? Well, if you figure, let's just say 1990. Okay? I'll give them that. Let's just say 1989 to make the math easy. Okay, so for 30 years, let's just say, for the sake of shits and giggles, that there's been 2 conferences every year for 30 years in Dallas. That would be 60 conferences in 30 years. Okay? Now let's say 60 times 30. That's 1,800 conferences. That does not sound right. Oh, 60 times 2. That's right. 60 times 2. That's 120 conferences. Okay, and I'm being very generous here. Just for the sake of math. So 120 conferences since 1989. And let's just say, I'll be even more generous. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, there's been 300 people at every conference. These 120 conferences, there's been 300 people. And that's being very generous because there was about 120 to 150 this year at Kappa. Well, that's about right. If that's how many was at Judy's, you put them together, 300 people. So let's just go ahead and be uber generous. Let's be real generous. Let's make it 600 people. Let's say there was 300 people at each conference, 2 conferences each year. Where does that put us? So 120 times 600. Okay, that's 72,000 people. Now let's just say, for the sake of argument, that all of these 72,000 people are unique individuals and did not ever go to any other JFK conference other than the one that they attended. Let's say there's 72,000 unique individuals. Okay? Just for the sake of argument. And I'm being very generous with the numbers here, folks. Very generous. So over the years, you figure 72,000 people have went and learned information at JFK conferences. And that's just in Dallas. Okay? Not to mention, there have been JFK conferences in Pittsburgh, in Albany, New York, in Chicago, in Illinois, in Virginia, and yada, 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 yada. So let's bump that number up from 72,000. Hell, let's make it 100,000. For every JFK conference that's ever been put on everywhere, ever. Okay? Let's bump that up to 100,000. Okay. Now, I'm going to toot my own little horn right here, right now. This little show, that you're listening to right now, that I've done, that I started on my own, and I've been doing for 5 years. This little show right here has been downloaded 189,000 times. And played 85,000 times. So let's do that math. So 190. So basically almost 275,000 listens in 5 years. Do you see what I'm getting at yet? This is the power of one voice resonating with the many. Because I don't sugarcoat anything. I will tell you like it is. I will have relevant information on here. I will have authors on here. I will have guests on here. And tell you like it is. I've never held back my feelings on this show. And hopefully you get the passion that I have for my interest in getting to the truth of this case, one way or the other. And I don't sugarcoat it for you. I want to be able to present things to you in a factual, documentable manner and share things with you guys that you might not have heard about before, and hopefully help you think about the case in a different light, or be more interested in the case, or be that spark in your fire that ignites the passion in you just like I have and have had for many, many years. This little show, all by its lonesome, has had more than twice as many listens as there has been any JFK conference anywhere in the whole world ever combined. I don't know how to make it any more clear. The conferences are not where it is anymore. I can't believe the archaic ways of these people that have been stuck in this thing for I don't know how long, doing shit the same way year after year after year. I can only imagine the boxes of books that folks like Chris Milligan and Deborah Conway and all these people lug around just to sell, set up these little booths, jack up the prices on all these assassination books so that you suckers can buy them. Yeah, that's right, I called you a sucker. Why would I go... Why in the Sam hell would I go to why would I spend money to go to a JFK conference? Spend a lot of money to get there, a lot of money to go there, and then you're going to sit here and charge me $75 or $80 for a book that I can get on Amazon for $20? You're out of your fucking mind. Out of your mind. Point being, folks, is that if you are a researcher out there, or if you are an author out there, and you have been working in the JFK assassination realm, or you have published a work about something related to the JFK assassination, then what you should be doing, instead of worrying about traveling to Dallas and being filmed by a Japanese film crew, because that's the only crew in this world that gives a shit about your conference, so you can speak to 100 people, if you're lucky to stay in the room, and maybe compel them in your allotted half an hour, 45-minute talk to motivate them to go out to the merch table to buy your book, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Your presentation could be a segment, an interview on a show like mine, because I'm not the only guy doing this. And I don't know anybody else's numbers. I'm just giving you mine, because that's all I know. I have no idea how many people listen or have listened to Chuck's show. I have no idea how many people listen or have downloaded Midnight Rider News Show. I have no idea how many people listen to Doug's show or have downloaded it or listen to, I don't know. I have no clue. I know my numbers. I know my numbers. I have stats from my podcast. And if you are an author or researcher and you have something you want to get out to the people, you should be coming on a show like mine to do so. If you want to sell books, if you want to sell a book that you've written, then if you come on my show and do a compelling interview, chances are people are going to go out and buy your book. And a show like mine that has a singular, focused, built-in audience who is interested in the JFK assassination should be a goal. I shouldn't have to beg people to come on my show. They should be begging me to come on my show and talk about their book. And that's just facts. I know that if I had taken the time to research and write a book, because it is a very hard thing to do, folks. It is not easy. It's much easier said than done. To do it the right way, to footnote everything, and, do everything factual, and buy the book, and format it, edit it, the whole 9 yards. If I had spent the time to write a book and do all that, then I would surely want folks to buy my book. Now, it's not rocket science. If I wrote a book on the Kennedy assassination, then I would more than likely be shooting emails out to Chuck O'Celli, S.T. Patrick, Doug Campbell, Leno Sanic, and Rob Clark. And it's sending them a copy of my book and saying, hey, look, I wrote this book. If you like it, I'd love to come on your show and talk about it. And, if that's cool with you. Well, hell, why keep it small? Send a copy to George Norrie. Send a copy to Richard Serrett. Think big. A book about the topic that this show is a topic of, the JFK assassination, has a very narrow audience. Random people. Very few people reach that breakthrough, crossover type fame and get the big money from the big publishing companies for a JFK assassination book. Jim Mars did it with Crossfire. Thank you to Oliver Stone. Jim Garrison wrote a couple books. David Lifton's book, when it came out, was a pretty big deal. Jesse Ventura, of course, he's a former pro wrestler, former governor, very outspoken, very passionate, very believable. and he put himself out there. What I'm saying is, folks, if you are somebody like John Newman, who's written 4 books on the Kennedy assassination and 5's in the works, or 6's in the works, you might want to be putting yourself out there if you want to sell books. Make yourself accessible. Why else are you taking all the time to do this stuff if you don't want to sell any books? This guy, Tommy Wilkins and his wife Hilda, they wrote a book called Walking the Razor's Edge, The Dutchman and the Baron. And, they went and researched Dutch journalist William Altman's files and archives about George de Mohrenschildt and the Kennedy assassination. Why am I didn't see them speaking at any conference this year. I'm pretty sure they live in the Midwest. Probably wouldn't have been too much of a long trip to get down to Dallas. Probably could have sold some books if they had a compelling story, which they might. I don't know. But I'm not going to spend $17 on Amazon to buy your book. If you want me to talk about it, you should probably send me a copy, and you should probably come on my show so we can talk about the book and get people interested in the book so that they go buy it. It's not rocket science, folks. It really is not rocket science. And he's not the only one. I'll just call him out because he's top of mind, but there's been many other people out there that have written books on JFK where I've sent them emails, I've reached out to them on Facebook, and I get nothing in return. So hopefully, you get what you get, folks. If you think some people just publish a book just to say they did and it's done, and they think their work will last forever and they don't have to do anything else and it'll just sell right off the shelves, well, good for you. Hopefully it does, but probably is not. Ask people, okay, like Carmine Savastano, who I have on the show all the time, whether or not putting in the time to actually do a show about your book helps your book sell. Ask him if coming on the show or any other show helps to boost his website traffic to tpoc.com. Go ask Bart Camp the response that he gets when he comes on this show and talks about the real research that he's doing and gives it to my listeners for free, and ask him about the website traffic, ask him about the article traffic, ask him about his video traffic, ask me about my podcast traffic after Bart comes on the show. It's huge. Huge. And again, I'm not tooting my own horn. The first conversations I had with Bart, over 5,000, and this was many, many months ago, the last time I checked it, over 5,000 listens. I'm probably way off by now. But that's more people that were in Dallas for these conferences in the past 10 years combined, just to listen to one show. And we gave it to you for free. All you got to do is listen. Everything is right there, and Bart keeps bringing it. With his new research and new information, documentation. He's doing hard work. He's keeping up a website. He's working with Dealey Plaza UK, the Reopen Kennedy Case Forum. And he's writing and trying to come on shows, and it's tireless. It's dedication. It's passion. This is the future of JFK conferences. We don't need to come to Dallas anymore. All we need, and look, one thing Dealey Plaza UK gets right over there in the United Kingdom, they meet at a bar, which is where all good JFK conference conversation ends up anyway at the end of the night after people have had a horribly long, boring, drawn-out day. They meet up in the bar, and they talk shop, and they talk about the assassination, and they discuss topics. And that is how it should be done. You know, if you want to get together with like-minded people and have a good time and talk about the conversation, that is how you do it. It's not sitting in an uncomfortable-ass chair after you done paid $150 to be there and have to sit there all day long because they have packed and crammed folks to speak back to 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 back every 45 minutes all day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You know, it's like, okay, podcast, you can consume this whenever you want, whenever you have time, whenever you want to listen. If you want to listen on your way to work, pause it, finish it up on your way home from work. Awesome. You want to pop your headphones in, grab the leash and take your dog for a walk, listen to the show? Perfect. If you got a lot of house cleaning to do, strap on those earbuds or pump it through Alexa, whatever you want to do. While you're doing laundry, while you're doing dishes, you can listen to the show. You don't have to stand there and be bored. You can listen to what you want to listen to when you want to listen to it. And you can go scroll through the archives and you can pick whatever topic tickles your fancy. And listen up. That's my point. This year will be the last time you will ever see this face at a conference. Period. In Dallas, Texas. Now, I'm not saying it won't be my last trip to Texas, because I did have a good time in Texas. I had a great time seeing the sights, but I didn't get to see every little thing that I wanted to see. I didn't quite make it to Irving, and I didn't make it to a couple other places that I wanted to see, where they were situated at in Dallas. I did see a lot, though. But I can tell you this. This face, this body, this mind will never, ever be at another pretentious, self-righteous conference, in quotes, in Dallas, Texas, ever again. Not going to happen. I'll do my thing here. I'll get the information out to you for free from the fine folks who do want to come on this show and share with you their research for free. All you got to do is listen to a couple ads on here. That pays my bills. I mean, that doesn't hurt you. Doesn't hurt me. It puts a couple bucks in my pocket for taking the time to actually do this for you guys. But I don't do it for the money. I'm doing it because I'm passionate to find the truth. I don't care if you don't buy my book. I don't care if you don't listen to the show. I don't care. Because there's enough people out there that do care. And if you don't like my attitude, there's folks out there that have a much more studious, what should I call it? Educational, proper, more politically correct type shows than this one. But if you want somebody who's going to tell you like it is, you can come here anytime you like. Curl up and have a listen. Hopefully you'll learn something and walk away entertained. That's all I want. So that's it, folks. That's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to get off my chest. And once again, thanks to Bart for publishing my article on Daily Plaza UK. You can check that out. Follow me on Twitter at TheLoneGunman7. And also, check out The Lone Gunman from the Vault. It should be on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. It is an entirely different show than this. And on that show, I post various guest spots that I've done throughout the years, interspersed with other folks from days gone by that have done interviews that I feel like shouldn't die and get lost in the ether. And maybe it's entertaining and maybe it's stuff you want to listen to. And there's also documentaries on there. There's speeches. Just all kinds of crazy stuff related to the JFK assassination in some form or fashion. And it's just more content. Just go listen. I can't keep... I feel like I don't keep the pace up enough to keep my listeners happy. So, there's more. And there will always be more. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Make sure you're checking out Quick Hits JFK, me and Doug's show. We'll be dropping a new episode here shortly. It's still in its infancy. We have 4 episodes out as of right now. The 5th is coming. It's been recorded. It just needs to be edited and put up. Just make sure you find that and subscribe to that as well. I think that's it. That's enough cleaning of the castle, as ST would say. So, folks, thank you for listening, not only tonight, but throughout the years, to this show. And I've been more than generous throughout the years when I was puffing those numbers up for you. This show crushes every JFK conference that's ever been anywhere ever. And yeah, I'm tooting my own horn, bitch. Toot toot. And I'm just one show. That's not saying about Doug, Chuck, ST, hell, Brent, Holland, who else? I guess that's all that really matters. So anyway, for now, that's been The Lone Gunman. It's your boy, Rob. Peace. 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 What's up, Greg?